Today there are dangerous updates from Ukraine. Here, Ukraine launched a large-scale evacuation the northern border with Russia to protect civilians from the increasing Russian threat. This marks the beginning of Ukrainian defensive preparations and a clear sign that a previously quiet sector is now being treated as a potential new Russian attack axis for 2026. The mandatory evacuation for 14 border settlements across 4 communities, announced by Regional Governor Viacheslav Chaus after a Defense Council meeting, affects villages that have lived under daily shelling for months, yet roughly 300 civilians remained in the border belt. Now assembly points, transport and guaranteed temporary accommodation are being organized to move people out before the situation worsens. This urgency sharpened on January 1st when Russian drones struck the Semenivka town hospital, damaging facilities and destroying service vehicles, an early year reminder that the north of Ukraine can be hit hard without warning due to its proximity to the border. The evacuation is happening against a backdrop of Russian manpower that looks large on paper but is constrained in practice. Russia met a major 2025 recruitment goal of around 400,000 troops and is planning another similar intake for 2026 as it tries to expand total armed forces strength. Yet the problem is that high casualties in the same amount and constant operational demand prevent the Russian command from building a real strategic reserve. Russia keeps around 350,000 personnel outside the active Ukrainian front, but only a fraction is rapidly deployable for a new offensive, as many units are tied to training pipelines, internal security tasks, and increasingly protection of infrastructure against deep Ukrainian strikes. Belarus remains the other potential threat vector, but the practical picture is different, as estimates for Russian troops in the country range from a few thousand up to 15,000, largely focused on training, logistics, and air defense or missile-related support, rather than the massed maneuver formations required for a real thrust through the border. Along the broader northern axis, Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod regions, Russia fields substantial forces, but they are heavily tasked with border security and rear area defense, limiting what can be spared for a deep push into Chernihiv region. With the reserves stretched, the most realistic Russian goal is not a repeat of February 2022, but shallow penetrations of roughly 5 to 15 kilometers to seize border villages, threaten routes, and create a perception of escalation. The terrain favors the Ukrainian defenders, with forests, rivers, and winter ground conditions punishing enemy logistics, while prepared kill zones and drone reconnaissance narrow corridors of advance. A genuine drive on Chernihiv and through towards Kiev would require a major redeployment from decisive fronts, gambling away hard-won positions elsewhere, creating a serious risk for the Russian command in areas like Donbass. The more likely goal of the Russians is a demonstrative push with intensified drone and missile pressure, sabotage reconnaissance raids, and probing attacks timed with information operations to simulate a bigger build-up. The aim is to force Ukraine to buy insurance by pulling scarce reserves north, thinning lines around sectors like Pokrovsk or Kupiansk without Russia paying the price of a sustained offensive. At the same time, Ukraine is fortifying Chernihiv region against Russian threats by constructing extensive defenses, including 2,130 platoon strongpoints, over 3,000 kilometers of anti-tank ditches, and barrier fences, as part of a broader effort that includes border guards, territorial defense, and regular units on key approaches, and persistent drone surveillance to spot crossings and gatherings of enemy forces early. Then rapid strikes and mobile reserves deeper in the rear to crush any breakthrough attempt before it grows. Evacuating the border belt is the first protective measure for the Ukrainians, as it reduces civilian risk and removes the fog Russia tries to exploit. It helps deny Russia one of its favorite tools in such operations, blending infiltrators into civilian movement and using populated areas as cover for scouting and strike adjustment. Overall, Russia may lack the spare high-quality reserves for a major northern campaign right now, but it can still manufacture danger through raids and pressure, and it can always redeploy if it decides a new 2026 axis is worth the effort. Ukraine is acting accordingly, evacuating civilians out first, hardening defenses, and preparing to meet a northern feint without weakening other fronts that decide the war elsewhere. If you would like to explore other key developments today that we couldn't cover in this video, make sure to visit our interactive news map. The link to our interactive map is in the description below. Thank you for watching this update, and a special thanks to everyone already following our interactive map.